Well, hello and welcome. And I was having a conversation with our Reverend Sarah Beavers, who is with the Pastures Green Spiritualist Church, one of our New Christian Spiritualist Society churches. And we were talking about the phenomena, if you'd like to call it that, of mediums working in the public domain actually issuing disclaimers about their work. And I was saying to her that, way back in 2008, I vociferously campaigned against the repeal of the Fraudulent Mediums Act. Well, of course, I wrote various articles, appeared on radio, television, even stuff like that about this. And in fact, on television, I challenged anyone who wanted to arrest me because I wasn't going to say that what I did wasn't true as a healer or a medium. And anyway, I thought I would like to read this article that I'd written way back at the time in a newspaper that I'd produced called Spiritual News. And as you know, probably I still write for Psychic World newspaper monthly. And I have a website that you can look at, and the New Christian Spiritualist Society has a website with lots of stuff on it. And of course, there's a Facebook page for the New Christian Spiritualist Society. And, others of our churches have got their own Facebook pages, of course, as has the Pastures Green and Little Port Christian Spiritualists and so on. Anyway, without further ado, I felt inspired by Sarah, you see, Reverend Sarah, to actually broadcast this. So what I entitled it at the time was "The EU is no good for spiritualism." And here we go. I said, oh, yes, and what I should say is also, I don't know if I should keep it for afterwards, but I actually wrote to Her Majesty's Government, the Department for Business Regulation and Reform as it was then, and got a lovely reply from George Osborne, and also other departments, all assuring me they had no intention whatsoever of interfering in any way whatsoever with spiritualism or any religious belief systems, come to that, or any religions and their practices. And so therefore they didn't know where they'd all got the idea from that they had to be part of the Trades Descriptions Act at all, because as I argued, we are a religion and therefore we are not a trade. I also wrote to His Grace the Archbishop of Canterbury and received a letter back as well. There we are, Lambeth Palace, and there's my Downing Street letter. There we are, and that was in. There we are. So there. So you see, we have backup. Now, this is the article that I wrote. It's been a definite change for the worse for spiritualism and its genuine exponents since Europe laid down the law in 2008. And of course, at this time, I'm just putting on comments, of course, because I forgot. Can't get the staff. 2008. When it was reported in 2008 that our UK government was set to abolish many of our laws under a new European directive on trading standards, you may wonder why I took to the media soapbox. I was horrified to learn that we were to lose the hard-won Fraudulent Mediums Act, which was lumped in for abolition most surprisingly and ignorantly, along with many other intrinsically commercially focused regulations that had been enshrined in the United Kingdom and English law for its citizens' protection against unfair trading practices. Or, in the words of the old sentiment, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not out to get you. Was it through ignorance of the spiritualist movement and its history, or was it because someone or some vested interest group in Britain seized on the opportunity to press the destruct button on spiritualism and its religious practices? Puzzlingly, the EU's Unfair Commercial Practices Directive was accepted by the then newly formed Department for Business, Enterprise and Regulatory Reform as applying to the Fraudulent Mediums Act, the wording of which I had been previously lobbying to change from fraudulent to genuine, having in mind to the negative implications. Now, instead of uniting to fight the abolition, which is more than insulting in itself, to be tarred with the commercial traders' brush, one of the most influential spiritualist groups, the Spiritualist National Union, or SNU for short, sided with the government's compliance to the European directive and this government's interpretation of mediumship. Genuine mediumship and the skill of speaking with those on the other side of life and relaying messages and communications therefrom is the bedrock on which spiritualism stands firm. In fact, the notion flying around in 2008 that this would put an end to ostensibly fraudulent practices, taking in psychic phone lines that were in their infancy then and threatening to expand, and so by inference depleting attendances at spiritualist meetings where genuine mediumship and even psychic readings, etc., were on offer, has been proved lamentably wrong. Well, fortunately wrong. Then the Spiritualist National Union put out its own directive to its exponents and churches, telling them that unless they stated it was all for entertainment purposes only, or an experiment without guarantee, their exponents would be liable to prosecution under this new Trade Description Act that had done away with the Fraudulent Mediums Act, that their own members of their organisation had battled to in place in law in 1951. The SNU appeared to forget its roots. It used to say it was a religion of spiritualism modified in the interests of truth to representing the religion of spiritualism, and began selling trading insurance policies to its exponents. The SNU appeared to forget its roots. There are many groups representing the religion of spiritualism, and unfortunately many of these followed sheep-like into the morass of insurance broking that coincided with scaremongering. Mine seemed to be the voice in the wilderness, arguing against the repeal of the Act that afforded protection to genuine mediums and healers, and I appeared on many television and radio programmes, sometimes head-to-head with spokespersons from the Spiritualist National Union. Yes, that made for some interesting broadcasting, I tell you. I also launched and edited 2 spiritualist newspapers in 2008 dedicated to fighting the FMA's repeal, instigated by the EU, spreading stories of genuine mediumship and healing, as well as writing lead articles on same. I entered into discussion with the head of BER and other related government departments. At the end of my correspondences, I received assurances that they had no concerns about religious matters or the practices of any religious denominations, that the spiritualist community had no need to worry about their practices. I had originally envisaged, happily erroneously as it turned out, all kinds of allegations being made by people who may wish spiritualists and spiritualism ill, claiming to have been duped by genuine mediums amongst other disruptions, but this hasn't happened. What has happened is that a vast industry has sprung up of psychic phone line operators, ghost-busting television programs, psychics and mediums television shows, and theatrical presentations. I say industry because they are all covered for any fraudulent mediumship, as was, by declaring that they only do it for entertainment. Pretending to conjure up the spirits of the dead used to be an indictable offence. Now charlatans have a get-out-of-jail-free card, and genuine exponents of spiritualist practices have also now lumped themselves together with the jokers in the pack. Only recently a case of fake mediumship took place at a séance. The sitters got their money back and nobody was prosecuted. There is no law left by which a fraudulent medium can be prosecuted. The spiritualist centre where this happened is exactly that. So unless the people who run it and booked the medium choose, the miscreant can just relax and do it again, if he can find anywhere to let him, that is. After I had continued to state the case for religious spiritualist mediumship and healing needing no insurance or spurious statement that it's all in fun, a couple of years ago on the SNU website, it was announced that those serving churches had no need to say that they were only doing it for entertainment. Now, I said a couple of years in that article, but of course it was a few years ago now. This EU directive and its consequent subtle damage to the spiritualist church, movement, way of life, call it how you will, gave rise to the new spiritualist society that I've named, the New Christian Spiritualist Society. It is a religious organisation that does not sell insurance to spiritualist mediums and healers. It is ministry-led. Its exponents are serious about their practices and as genuine mediums and healers are doing the religious work of their calling. None of them would lower themselves or do a disservice to spiritualism by saying that what they do is for the purposes of entertaining anyone. There are odd places set up by mostly English spiritualists who are tutors of mediumship development in Europe, Germany, Holland, Spain, and Italy that are not called spiritualists, but spiritual, or a place of spirit. These are centres offering mediumship courses, etc., but you'll find no directory of spiritualist churches, as you can almost to excess, spoiled for choice, in North America and in South America, who call themselves spiritists, or in Canada, Australia, South Africa, and New Zealand, our old British Commonwealth countries. We need to get another private members' bill up and running in a sovereign parliament, like the one that brought forth the Fraudulent Mediums Act in 1951, to stop the rot and allow spiritualism to flourish as it should, and ensure that the new law is worded appropriately to enable prosecution of those who bring it into disrepute, those who can currently take shelter, courtesy of the EU, by saying that they are in the entertainment industry there. So that's what I wrote back then. Say good morning to everybody who's joined me, and I just felt that there are some things that need perhaps reiterating, and it's good to remember, isn't it, that the world moves forward and we all progress, and spiritual progress is open to every human soul, not just over there in the heavenly realms, but down here for sure. And as we know by that wonderful hymn that was written by an old slave trader, John Newton, Amazing Grace, when he wrote of his own redemption and his own spiritual progress. So I think that it would be really nice to make sure that all our mediums who are worth their salt, who are genuine and who know that they are telling the truth, that they can communicate with those loved ones who are on the other side of life, who do receive inspiration from an identifiable source in the spirit realms, to not have to worry themselves about saying that they are doing it for any reason other than their own sacred religious responsibility to uphold the principles and tenets of our wonderful religious belief that spiritualism is a wonderful religion, and we don't need to imagine for 1 minute that we are a trade or anything or some kind of religious industry. I mean, by that token, then we should look at the Vatican perhaps, or the Church of England, or any other established large religion in the world. The fact is that we all follow a spiritual pathway in whichever way we do that, and none of us, including the Archbishop of Canterbury, bless him, need insurance. So I'll say God bless to you. I'll see if there are any comments. It says they can't post comments, blah, 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 blah. Don't know what all that's about. But I hope that you've enjoyed our morning chat. And if you're listening to it, of course, at another time, this has been live, as they call it. I'll say God bless you. And just to remind you that there is a website, www.newchristianspiritualistsociety.com, or there's my own, of course, www.lingestiswalt.com. There's a Facebook page for the New Christian Spiritualist Society, and just tap in the word spiritualist on Google and you get loads of stuff. And And of course, as I mentioned before, there's a Psychic World newspaper that you can subscribe to. Details of that are on their Facebook page, which is called Psychic World Newspaper. And I wish you well. And there's going to be another broadcast when I'm going to read another of my articles, which I hope you like. It encapsulates spiritualist history, some of the people in that, and whether we and why mediums should get recompense and help to maintain themselves in this world of ours through their calling. So I'll say God bless you, and at 11 o'clock GMT this Sunday morning, the 13th of December, she says, quickly making sure that's the date, yes, 2020, I'll speak with you again.